Yo, what is up, guys? This is Salchicha Barista. I just wanted to make a quick little short video showing you a little bit about my setup. If you're into retro consoles and everything, how to kind of set them up into a modern kind of setup. Different things that I have going on behind the scenes that kind of make everything work. Otherwise, just a little video to show you a little bit behind the scenes, kind of how I have everything going on. If nothing else, just to kind of give you guys a starting point if you're into like retro gaming too. So kind of give you an idea of what I work with here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start. So what we actually have, we'll begin with just the immediate setup. We'll kind of go from console to console in our setup, and we'll start with the oldest console being the Super NES. Here's our copy of Super Mario World. And first thing that we need to do in our setup is going to be our switcher. We're just going to flick this over to Super NES and turn this on, and you'll just see it just kind of works. So the biggest thing here that I have to do is just flip the switcher to this console, and then it's working. Now I also do have a speaker here, just a simple speaker. So let me go ahead now and show you a little bit of how each of these works. Below the desk, don't worry about that. Huge mess. And as you can see, quite a mess of cords. We're not going to worry about that. Crazy mess of wires, especially when you're dealing with a lot of component cables. There's a lot to deal with there. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you from the back here in the Super NES, and with the component, it'll run underneath of our desk. It comes back up over here to our switcher behind the desk, and right here on the switcher, I have 3 consoles plugged in. I have the Super NES plugged in beneath, the Gamecube up here, then I have the PlayStation 1 underneath here, and these 5 would be the out of the switcher. So I have 3 coming in, the switcher here, and then this goes out. Now with the component going out, then it comes back underneath of the desk, and it comes to these little switchers down below. Now the switchers down below, we have them going in, and you'll actually see, so we have an S-video splitter as well, and that's because I don't have a modded Nintendo 64. It is an OG original Nintendo 64 that I've had literally since I was a kid. I had it with my family and stuff, and I got it from my family. So if you had an HDMI modded Nintendo 64, you could plug it directly into your switcher here and be good to go. So down below with these splitters, going back here, so we have the Nintendo 64 that plugs in using S-video. That's the best that the OG console can get. Plugs in using S-video, and then it splits into two S-videos going out. Same thing with component. We have from our component switcher, all 3 consoles going in, and only 1 component going out, and that can be managed from the switcher. And then we have this that splits into 2 components going out. Why? So we'll come back up here, and then I have, where it splits, I have 1 that splits and goes out to my CRT. And that way I can play all of my retro consoles anytime that I want, just on my CRT. I have the ability to do that. Same with the S-video. One of those that splits goes right back into the back of the CRT. The other then goes over to the Retrotink 5X and plugs in here, and these split into the Retrotink. So I have the 1 S-video and the component cables. Now the component cables are the majority of my consoles, because the switcher that we just went over, that's the majority of my consoles, so that's pretty much the one I always use. But anytime, the one thing I do have to kind of unplug and plug back in is the S-video. So the S-video is in, but it also comes with 2 audio cables. So if I do want to record using the N64, I do have to swap those audio cables back here to properly record from the N64. Not to play on the CRT, but to record, I do have to swap those out. That's one of the only things I have to swap out, unfortunately. With that, these go into the Retrotink, and that then upscales and then outports to HDMI, and it also applies to my taste. It adds some scan lines and things to older consoles when you play on the monitors. just to kind of give it that retro feel. I love scan lines. I love scan lines. Scan lines are awesome. And that will go out to our HDMI switcher. Now our HDMI switcher is automatic. So in the back here we have 1, 2, 3. We have one from the component and the Retrotink, and that would be our 3 consoles: GameCube, Super NES, PlayStation. One which is our Wii U, and another one which is our Nintendo Switch. So those are the 3 HDMIs. Those come in and only one goes out. Now the one goes out and that comes back into our computer, into our Elgato capture card. That plugs right into my PC, into the PCIe. And then it outports right back, and that goes to my display. I also have another feature there where I can take an HDMI out from my PC, downgrade it to AV or component, and downgrade it and then plug it back into my CRT if I'm feeling frothy, just to kind of like take PC games and play on my CRT. Like, you know, if I want to play Skyrim or something on PC, or Oblivion, the remake, then I can play those on my CRT. So pretty cool there. But then that comes right back out, and those plug into my monitor, and then I have a full setup. I can not only play all of my consoles on my CRT at any time that I want, but with minimal adjusting to anything, I can also record them on my PC and simultaneously play them on my monitors. So I can actually play on my CRT or my monitors while also recording all of my hardware, my original consoles. All right, so at this point in time, we're just going to run through some testing. I'm going to show you exactly how easy it is with this setup, how quickly I can actually change things, and just how quickly I can set up a game and start playing it. So with my setup here, we're going to go ahead and start with the Super NES. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to play Super Mario World. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And then we're going to switch this over to port 1, turn on the power, and bam, there's Super Mario World. So we got it on the CRT, the monitor here, and you'll also see over in OBS that I can record it. So we have the simultaneous where we can play it on the CRT, I can record it, and through the Retrotink upscaling, I can play it if I wanted to, either both or just on. I can choose whether I want to play on the CRT or the monitor. If I want to play on the monitor, it's upscaled, and it also has scan lines adjusted to it. So I get that retro feel even using a monitor. All right, the next thing, we're going to go ahead and turn off the Super NES, and we're going to go with the Nintendo 64. Now, like I said with the Nintendo 64, a little bit different. With this one, we do have to take out our audio cables. We're going to do that now, and then we're going to replace them with the S-Video audio cables. And that is the one thing that I really need to adjust, because this is S-Video. I do not need to touch the switcher at all. We're just going to change out these audio cables. There's one more thing, unfortunately, that we do have to do, and that is to take our remote, and I would have to load up my Nintendo 64 settings, which I would have to do anyway for proper scan lines on any other system. But in this case, it's particularly important because we are using S-Video, so I just have to change the input on our Retrotink to S-Video instead of the component video, since we're using S-Video instead. Once we have the setting changed on the Retrotink and the audio plugged in, the rest is simple. We're going to go ahead and we're going to test out using Ocarina of Time here, and we're going to go ahead and turn it on. And there you go, Ocarina of Time. So we got it on the CRT, and then we also have it coming through the PC to record, and upscaled with scan lines on our monitor as well. And this is not going to be a video of, I'm not going to go into all of my settings, how I kind of have these. I actually have a lot of these, as you'll see. I'm going to show you also raw footage of actually the proper recordings of these games, how they're going through the PC as well. So you've already, now you're seeing that with Super Mario World, you're now seeing that with Ocarina of Time. And this is actually the raw recording footage using the Elgato after being upscaled with the Retrotink 5X with scan lines. So this is actually the raw footage of the game, and this is how I like to record things because it gives you that retro feel. And let's go ahead and we're going to turn off the N64. We're going to go to our next platform, which is our Nintendo GameCube. We're going to use a special game, and that's going to be Custom Robo, one of my favorite GameCube games. Switch this over to 2 and turn it on. I will make sure that I change my settings in the Retrotink, but besides changing the settings right here, I don't have to do anything else. So once we finish up with the settings here comes Custom Robo, and here's some simple footage from the capture I got for Custom Robo on my Elgato. Enjoy. And let's get a close-up for those pixels. Now, I'm also going to tell you here that the GameCube is something special because I also have a Game Boy Player. Now, what that means is I can actually go in using a special disc and magically... Some of you know what this is. I'm not going to explain it at this time. I'm not going to go into settings or like how to do certain software things. I'm not going into any of that right now. Right now in this video, I'm just going into hardware, the cords, the kind of connections that I have set up. I'm not going to go deep into software and settings in this video. So this is just a video kind of showing my setup and how I have everything kind of functioning. But along with the Game Boy Player, the Game Boy Player is kind of cool because I can also play Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, and Game Boy Advance games using the Game Boy Player, and those also go to the CRT, as well as I can record them pixel perfect using the upscaled Retrotink to my Elgato, and then I can play them right back to my monitor. So again, these are the ways that I like to play the games. I also like to record them because I like to record them in pixel perfect mode. That way, when I'm playing through the games and I'm streaming or recording any of these games, it's kind of like you were playing them on your Game Boy for the very first time. Excuse the grummy screen. So it's like you're getting that retro feel by playing the Game Boy how you originally played it when you were a kid. That's how I like to record these because you get that pixel perfect, you get those scan lines, you can see those pixels in the game, whether it be an old console, Super NES, and anything, or if it's that Game Boy. That's how I like to record these. So using the Retrotink with those scan lines is very important to me. Kind of gives you that retro feeling if you've ever played some of these games growing up. And if not, a lot of kids these days hadn't played those games growing up. It kind of gives them a little bit of that feeling that they never got to actually enjoy or share in. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on from the GameCube here. And the next thing that we're going to show off here real briefly is just our Wii. So the Wii, a little bit different. I'll show you in the back of the GameCube while we're in here. Is I have the Mark II Eon. This is just an upscaler. This actually uses the original component cables, or it allows HDMI digital output from the back of the GameCube. And in this case, I'm just using the component. I'm using the analog. I'm using the analog upscaler on the Eon, and then this goes right back over to our component switcher. But it also allows for the HDMI too, if I wanted to do so. but I want to upscale it using the Retrotink. So that is why I do the component analog and then switcher and then Retrotink, because I want that Retrotink. I want those scan lines during recording and things. So that's how that works. We're going to go ahead and take this out, though. We're going to go ahead and put the component into our Wii. And then we're going to go ahead and put in this case, let's do Animal Crossing City Folk. For you folk who have ever played that game. An amazing Animal Crossing game, in my opinion. And we're just going to go ahead and turn that on. Same deal here. Nothing to really adjust. It's already switched over to the component here using the Gamecube already. The HDMI automatically switches. The only thing that we need to mess with using the Retrotink, we do have to use our remote, and that's just to adjust the settings in our Retrotink per console. And this is just my personal preference because I have a preference for each console. I have settings to make them all pixel perfect and have proper scan lines how I want them or how I desire them. And there's Animal Crossing. All right, and after the Wii, now we're just going to briefly go over the Wii U. Wii U's a lot more simpler because now we're approaching HDMI. So there's no more old cables, no more anything like that. There's nothing to upscale. There's no scan lines that need to be produced or anything, in my opinion. Because going up here now, a lot of these games were intended for or made for digital output. They were made for HDMI. So a lot of the games nowadays, because they're made for that, that's how the game was intended to be played, and so it's very simple from this point on. So with the Wii U, we just go ahead and flip it on. There's literally nothing that we need to do with the Wii U because there's no switcher, there's no splitter, there's no anything. It just goes directly into our HDMI switcher. That automatically changes. We're going to show off real briefly Pikmin 3. All right, and then finally our Switch. Of course, same deal here. Switch is very, very simple. Now we're just going to show off real briefly the Mega Man Battle Network collection on Switch. And that's going to be it for the Switch. So these other platforms, the Wii U, Nintendo Switch, very simple. I just throw them into the HDMI switcher. There's not much to handle there. Because there's not a whole lot of fidgeting. Of course, most of these connections are made for older consoles, retro consoles, and how I port them over to play on the CRT in the best way possible, as well as upscale and use scan lines to play them on my monitor as well and record for you guys. So just a heads up there. Last console, last but not least, we're going to go ahead and move over to the PlayStation 1. We're just going to show off Ape Escape here is the game that I've chosen for this one. And we're going to put this in here and go ahead and start it up. We do need to switch our component back here. We do need to change our Retrotink settings to our PlayStation settings. And there we go. So there's Ape Escape, and here's some recording footage. All right, so other than the PlayStation here, we do have one more thing, and you guys might be thinking, okay, well, here's all of the consoles. How do I play DS and 3DS games? Well, I have that as well. So we're going to go ahead and show that real briefly. And I actually have the 3DS here. And in our 3DS, we have this is a modded 3DS. So I have the USB connection up here. And in this 3DS, I have all of the games that I've ever purchased. And we're just going to go ahead and turn this on. And I have software for this in the computer, and you're just going to see this as I kind of turn it on. It's going to pop up in OBS over here. have not only DS, 3DS games, I have old games too. I have all of my Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games, just about everything on here. Most of those I will play on the GameCube itself, just because I get that upscaled scanline look from the Retrotink. I'll always choose that over this, but I will always use this for my DS and 3DS games specifically. Also because I get the original feel. So that's the nice thing about all of this, is that I get the original feel. I'm playing with the original controllers. I'm playing with the original hardware. And I can choose to either play on the original CRT, or I can play on the upscaled monitor that I have with scan lines, and it's real time. There's no delay on any of these connections. Everything is analog up until the digital signal of the HDMI, and then that goes to the HDMI switcher straight to the computer. There is virtually no lag, nothing noticeable here, and you can see that when I'm playing these side by side on the CRT and the monitor. You can kind of see that there's no difference there. So very nice setup. I love it. I still have a couple of things that I want to improve, little at a time on it. But that's my setup for my game consoles, my retro consoles, and I have to say I do love it. We do have one more thing actually, so that is all of the hardware for my kind of visuals. We haven't really talked too much about audio, besides just the audio of the games. So I actually do want to show off real briefly my audio. And in my audio connection here, we can actually show I have this Focusrite, which plugs directly into my computer. This is just a pleasure, man. I love this Focusrite so much. I have my XLR cable that kind of comes out over here, connects through to my Shure microphone right here. Hi, guys. That comes through my Focusrite that I can manage the audio here. Manage it further in OBS. I have some specific settings for audio and things that I've set up, and taken time and research to set up myself, as well as then I have my headphones, my Bose headphones that are connected also to the Focusrite, and over here I can actually change the audio of how loud I hear things without changing. That's the nice thing about this Focusrite, without changing how loud anything is playing for you guys. So I can stream everything at one level, and then I can change this, and I can change the level that I hear things specifically without messing with the recording, without messing with audio levels on stream, anything like that. That affects just what I'm hearing. So that is beautiful. I love that so much. I use that all of the time. And that's my audio. So that's my headphones, that's my microphone, that's the connections that I have. And then of course I have my Nikon Z50, which is just on the cheaper end of like a professional camera. It's a little bit cheaper that I purchased, more so for personal reasons. But I also use it for streaming as well, just for higher quality video. And that's the end of the video. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, buy me a coffee, whatever you feel like doing. I appreciate you guys. I hope that you guys actually enjoyed something out of it. Whether you just liked seeing my setup and kind of what I've done with it so far. I have a lot of things that I still want to improve on it. A lot of things that I kind of want to mess with, but if it also gave you guys any ideas as well, all the better. So again, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye. See you. Bye-bye. Bye.